The Selena Gomez story, from small-town dreamer to global icon. Roots, fire, and the first stage. Selena Marie Gomez was born on July 22, 1992, in Grand Prairie, Texas, a place where summer heat hangs heavy in the air and family names carry far. She wasn't born into fame. She wasn't born into comfort. She was born into determination. Her mother, Mandy, was just 16 when she had her, a high schooler with big theater dreams and a baby in her arms. Teenage motherhood rarely comes with soft landings. Money was a worry that never seemed to sleep. Gas money sometimes meant couch cushion coins, but there was a steadiness in the chaos, a young mother who refused to let struggle define her daughter's future. If you listen closely to this story, you'll notice a rhythm to the language. Short, clear sentences followed by longer, more reflective lines. That's how Americans often speak when they're telling something that matters. It's a rhythm you can practice. It's a rhythm you can own. Selena's early life moved to the tempo of community theater rehearsals, the scent of stage makeup, and the click of cheap costume jewelry. While other kids learned the rules of the playground, she learned the rules of the stage. Find the light, hit your mark, believe your words. She watched her mother rehearse lines under a lamp at midnight and thought, I want to do that. I want to make stories real. She was 7 when she stepped onto her first widely seen stage, Barney and Friends. A child among children, smiling into bright studio lights, she sang simple songs with a purple dinosaur and felt a camera fall in love with her face. For most kids, television is a magic window. For Selena, it became a door. She learned how to wait between takes. She learned how to listen to direction. She learned that on a set, time is money, and that smiling on cue is a skill. Then the door closed. The show moved on, and they moved on without her. Rejection arrived early, blunt and cold. Most childhood dreams end quietly. Hers did not. She auditioned again and again, collecting no like loose change. No, not this time. No, not the look. No, not the role. Still, she returned. Still, she read the sides. Still, she walked back into rooms where adults sized up children like products on a shelf. There is a reason resilience looks simple from a distance. Up close, it's repetition. It's hearing no and not letting no become your name. It's placing your hope in the next audition, the next email, the next phone call that could change your life. Those calls finally came from Disney. Stardom's open hand, Stardom's closed fist. Disney chose Selena to play Alex Russo in Wizards of Waverly Place. A witty, sharp-tongued girl with a soft center, Alex wasn't perfect. She schemed, she stumbled, she learned. Selena didn't just play Alex, she understood her. The show hit big. Suddenly, Selena wasn't just a Texas kid. She was a global face. She arrived in living rooms in Buenos Aires and Berlin, Karachi and Cairo, Detroit and Dallas. Children copied her lines. Teenagers copied her style. Parents liked her too. There was something clean about her presence. Not sterile, clean. She felt safe to let into your home. Disney is a machine built to shape stars. Brightly, quickly, relentlessly. With that shaping comes pressure. Call times before sunrise. Tutors in corners of sound stages. Publicists with lists of what to say and what not to say. The pressure to be a role model is not just about being good. It's about being watchable, being marketable, being forever on in an age that never turns the camera off. Selena's response to all of this was to lean into the work. She learned how a set breathes. She learned how writers think, how directors frame, how producers calculate, and she learned the unspoken laws of child stardom. Fame is a currency, and someone is always counting it. She moved toward music not as an escape, but as an expansion. Selena Gomez in the Scene was born, a pop outfit whose songs turned from fun to formative for millions of teenagers. Naturally, Who Says? Love You Like a Love Song. Hooks that clung to your ear and confidence that clung to your ribs. She took stages in glittering jackets and split a crowd like a tide. Concerts sold out. Award shows invited her to wave and to win. Late-night hosts smiled and tried to be charming, and mostly failed, because charm isn't something you try, it's something you have. With scale came scrutiny. The tabloids built a new industry on her name and the names that orbit it. Her relationship with Justin Bieber became the world's favorite subplot. Two famous kids trying to make young love hold in a hurricane. The media treated their romance like a public property. Paparazzi lenses chased them down streets. Headlines chewed their privacy into content. Strangers took sides in a story that belonged to neither stranger nor side. Imagine being 19 and having your heart broadcast, your mistakes magnified, your tears itemized. Imagine learning to protect yourself without building a wall so high you can't see the sky. That was the tightrope she walked. And then, as the world shouted about who she was with, her body began to whisper about what she would face. The diagnosis: lupus is a word that hides a complex storm. It's an autoimmune disease. Your body confused about who the enemy is. Your body choosing yourself. Most people didn't know Selena was sick. In photos, she glowed. On stage, she shined. Off stage, she fought fatigue that felt like gravity doubled. Pain moved through joints, hair thinned, blood panels told truths she didn't want to hear. She kept working. She kept singing. She kept pretending she had it handled, because sometimes pretending is the only way to stand up. The truth got louder. In 2017, her kidneys were failing. Doctors spoke clearly. Time was not her friend. It's a terrifying thing to need a piece of someone else to live. It's even more terrifying to ask for it. Selena didn't ask. Her friend Francia Raisa offered. That offer didn't sound like words. It sounded like love with its sleeves rolled up. Surgery is a story told with scars. There were complications. There was fear. There were nights when recovery felt less like climbing and more like clinging. The gift took, and the body learned to live with it. Selena would later describe it as the ultimate act of friendship, the ultimate act of faith. She woke to a life that was both the same and completely new. When you almost lose the music, every note becomes a prayer. But recovery is not a straight line. Lupus doesn't vanish. It sleeps. It wakes. It asks you who you are and whether you are willing to choose yourself again. Alongside her physical healing, Selena faced her mind with the same honesty, anxiety, depression. These were not weaknesses to hide. They were wins to learn. She stepped into therapy. She stepped into treatment. She stepped into the gentle, difficult practice of telling the truth to herself. And she decided to tell the truth to the world. If you're listening to learn English, notice how the voice moves here. Slower, kinder. Pain is often spoken that way in American English. Steady tone, simple words, clear pauses that let meaning settle. The work of becoming. When Selena returned to the studio, something in her voice had changed. Not the pitch, the place it came from. Lose You to Love Me was a letter written to her past, to her habits, to her patterns, to any version of herself that said stay when she needed to go. I needed to lose you to love me. The line is simple. The gravity isn't. Listeners heard themselves inside it. The song went to #1 not because it was catchy, but because it was honest, and honesty, when sung well, is a stairway anyone can climb. She followed music with a move that looked like marketing and turned out to be a manifesto. Rare Beauty launched in 2020 with a promise. Makeup should not be a war against your face. The brand's language was radical in its gentleness. Embrace, include, invite. Foundations match skin that big box beauty forgot. Price points met people where they stand. And crucially, a portion of sales funded mental health resources through the Rare Impact Fund. In an industry that prints self-doubt into profits, she sold something different: permission to belong to yourself. Selena's activism is not abstract. It is practical, sometimes quiet, sometimes loud. She has used her platforms to press for mental health literacy, to amplify immigrant stories, to support voting access, to normalize conversations about therapy in communities that were taught to whisper. She executive produced projects that opened hard doors, true crime series that centered victims, scripted dramas that treated teenage pain like the serious thing it is, documentaries that refused to look away. There's a particular kind of power in standing in your own story and pointing to the exits you used. saying to strangers, "Here, this way, I made it out. You can too." And that takes us to an essential piece of her influence: representation. Selena is a Latina woman in an industry that often mistakes diversity for decoration. She isn't decoration. She's a designer of space. Young girls who share her heritage see themselves in the center of frames because she chose to take that space and keep it open behind her. She carries her culture without reducing it to costume. That matters. Quietly, constantly. Fame, body, and boundaries. Fame's oldest trick is to convince you that your body belongs to the crowd. Smile more, weigh less, dress like this, age like that. Selena has lived through the full spectrum of that harassment, and she has answered in a new language: boundary. She has posted candid videos and captions that say, essentially, "I live in this body. This body has saved my life. This body owes you nothing." The sentence is simple. The courage is not. Her journey with public attention is not about learning to ignore it. It's about learning to translate it, to take noise meant to hurt and turn it into music meant to heal. That's what she does on stage, in interviews, online, and off. She is not perfect. She is practicing. We all are. And still, she works. She acts in series that pull real laughter out of audiences who forgot they could laugh. She sings songs that meet people at their peak and in their valleys. She collaborates with artists who bring out new gears in her voice. She keeps building a business that insists beauty is not a mask, it's a mirror. She keeps raising money that will never trend on social media, but will change a kid's Tuesday afternoon when they finally sit with a counselor who speaks to them like they matter. If you're here for English learning, this is your reminder. Absorbing stories in natural, clear American English trains your ear for stress, rhythm, and melody. Don't just hear the words, hear the music of the sentences. Re-say lines you love, record them, listen back. Tiny improvements add up. The long middle. Documentaries love an ending. Life rarely provides one on time. Selena's story is in the long middle. She is not the girl she was on Barney. She is not the teen she was on Disney. She is not the woman who woke up from surgery with a scar and a second chance. She is each of them, stacked like pages in a book you keep open. There are days when she is busy and bright, a hummingbird over a garden of commitments. There are days when the fatigue wins. There are days when the mind needs tending and she chooses rest over performance. There are days when she surprises herself, writing a line, a single clean line, that unlocks a song she didn't know she could sing yet. That's not dramatic. That's adulthood. So what is legacy for someone still living it? It's the wake you leave when you move. It's 1,000 small shifts, a fan choosing therapy because they heard her talk about it without shame, a kid feeling seen in their skin shade, a young artist learning that saying no is not a betrayal of their ambition, but a protection of it, a brand meeting the market without lying to the mirror, a nonprofit paying for a school counselor who sits with a 14-year-old and changes the slope of a life. These are not headlines, they are seeds, and seeds are where revolutions begin. The private hours. It's easy to forget that famous people have mornings where the coffee is simply coffee. Selena's private hours are a patchwork. Time with family that remembers the girl before the stage. Time with friends who can laugh about the absurd and sit beside the heavy. Time with dogs whose loyalty has nothing to do with follower counts. She reads, she writes, she prays, she turns off her phone, she turns it back on. She tries to love people well and be loved well in return. She fails at that sometimes. We all do. The difference is that her failures could become a headline. Yours will not. That is why kindness matters more for the famous, not less. Privacy, for her, is not secrecy. It's stewardship. It's knowing which parts of yourself to share and which to keep safe. It's discovering that protecting your joy is not selfish. It is responsible. And responsibility is one of the quiet glories of growing up. Craft, not just career. The word career is a ledger. The word craft is a workshop. Selena treats performance like a craft. She studies. She rehearses. She watches her own tapes, not out of vanity, but out of curiosity. What reads, what doesn't? Where can I be truer? In the studio, she explores not just notes but textures, breath, break, hush, hold. In front of camera, she plays with micro-expressions that carry entire conversations across the screen without a single line of dialogue. This is the part of fame most casual observers miss. The work doesn't get easier because you're famous. In many ways, it gets harder. People expect your first draft to arrive finished. People expect you to reinvent yourself on schedule. People expect your art to confirm their idea of you. The antidote is to return to the small rooms where art is actually made. Studios that smell like cables and coffee, writers' rooms with whiteboards gone squeaky from too many plans erased, rehearsal halls where mistakes are the point, and slowly, quietly, across years, the craft compounds. The audience, the echo. An artist throws a story into the world and listens for the echo. Selena's echo is vast and varied. There are kids who found courage in Who Says When School hallways felt like battlefields. There are adults who put Lose You to Love Me on a loop and finally ended a relationship that was erasing them. There are mothers who hear her talk about health and dignity and choose to tell their daughters, your body is yours. There are fathers who watch her work and rethink the way they measure strength. There are grandparents who hear her Spanish and feel a familiar warmth light up their living rooms. In stadiums, the echo is literal, sound bouncing off steel and soul. Online, the echo is numbers that can numb. Offline, the echo is the softest and truest, a life moved 1 inch toward the light. This is a good place to pause your listening, repeat a few lines out loud, and let the vowels and consonants settle into your mouth. Practice speaks you into fluency. The business of good, rare beauty is a business, successful, sophisticated, scalable. It is also a philosophy disguised as product. The company's hiring practices, shade ranges, marketing imagery, and public commitments aren't decoration. They're design. They model what it looks like to put values into supply chains, not just slogans. The Rare Impact Fund doesn't exist to polish a brand halo. It exists to move resources toward clinics, schools, and community programs that translate awareness into appointments. Selena's executive decisions reflect a truth she learned the hardest way. If your work does not nourish the world beyond your paycheck, it will starve you eventually. So she builds a business that pays salaries and pays attention. That's not typical. That's leadership. And leadership is the one profession you cannot fake for long. The mirror of fame is a mirror that lies unless you know where to look. It exaggerates flaws, enlarges virtues, and offers infinite reflections of you that are not you. Selena has learned to step away from the mirror when it distorts, to ask, who am I when no one is watching? And answer that question with action. That is why she keeps returning to the basics: sleep, water, boundaries, movement, prayer, friendship, family, dogs, sunshine, song. These look like small things until you remove them. Then everything breaks. The engine that powers the tours and tapings is not drama. It is rhythm, boring, beautiful rhythm. The longer you live, the more you respect the boring things that keep you alive. A living legacy. What will history say about Selena Gomez? That depends on who writes it. But there's a through line no historian will miss. She made vulnerability visible, not as branding, as practice. She kept saying the quiet parts out loud. I needed help. I was hurting. I am healing. In an era when performance is constant, confession is radical. Her legacy is not only in the songs, the shows, the sales. It is in the conversations happening in kitchens and classrooms because she opened them on stages and screens. It is in the young Latina girl who sees her face reflected in a protagonist, not a punchline. It is in the boy who hears her say, therapy, and stops being ashamed to ask for it. It is in a million small, steady acts of choosing yourself without making an enemy of anyone else. That's what strength can look like. Soft around the edges, steel in the center. The quiet after the noise. There are nights when the crowd's roar follows you into the dressing room and turns into silence that feels like a cliff. You take off the in-ears. You unlace the boots. You see your own face in a lighted mirror and try to meet your own eyes. Did I tell the truth tonight? Did I use what I was given well? Did I make a space where someone in pain could breathe? Selena has asked those questions enough to know the real answers are never final. They are daily, and on most days the answers, imperfect and sufficient, lift her into tomorrow. If you have listened this far, your English has improved. Yes, really. You've followed complex emotions, modern vocabulary, and natural American pacing. Do it again tomorrow. Repeat lines you loved. Borrow the rhythm, build your voice, and remember the center of this story, a girl from Texas, raised by a mother who loved hard and worked harder, who learned to sing into a storm and to rest when the wind stopped, who took her second chance and made it a doorway for others. She is not finished, neither are you. The albums, the eras. Selena's music is best understood as a series of eras, each one a reflection of the version of herself she was becoming. Her debut album with the Scene Kiss and Tell, 2009, was full of teenage pop rock energy. It carried the optimism of a girl just stepping into herself, with tracks like Falling Down and naturally announcing that she was ready to play alongside the big names. Critics described it as safe, but fans described it as theirs. And in pop, ownership matters more than analysis. A Year Without Rain, 2010, came next, and with it a more polished pop sound. The title track carried a yearning that showed glimpses of emotional depth beneath the Disney image. Songs like Round and Round hinted at the kind of anthem she would later master. Easy to dance to, hard to forget. When the Sun Goes Down, 2011, arrived at the height of her Disney stardom and featured collaborations with names that gave her credibility beyond teen pop. Love You Like a Love Song became one of her signature hits. Catchy, repeatable, the kind of track that outlives its release date and finds new listeners year after year. But by 2013, Selena was ready to step away from the band and release her first solo project, Stars Dance. It was a declaration. The title alone hinted at her intent. No longer part of a scene, she was a star, and she was dancing to her own rhythm. Tracks like Come and Get It introduced a new sensuality, a maturity that was both exciting and risky. She was shedding the Disney skin and stepping into her womanhood. Then came Revival, 2015. This wasn't just an album, it was a statement. The cover itself, stripped down, black and white, presented her in raw vulnerability. Songs like Good For You and Hands to Myself leaned into minimalist production, giving space to her voice, her mood, her message. The album proved that Selena was no longer playing at pop stardom. She had arrived. And then after Silence, after Sickness, after Survival, came Rare, 2020. This was her Phoenix moment. Songs like Lose You to Love Me and Look at Her Now were not just tracks. They were therapy sessions set to melody. She let the world into her wounds, and instead of pity, the world gave her applause. The album's very title, Rare, became her brand, her philosophy, her flag. Rare meant unique, valuable, authentic. Rare meant Selena. Tours and stages. Selena's tours were always more than concerts. They were conversations in volume and light. The Stars Dance Tour in 2013 showcased her ability to command arenas, to lead thousands in chants and dances, to hold silence in the palm of her hand between verses. It was proof that she wasn't just a studio artist, she could fill spaces with presence. But it was the Revival Tour in 2016 that marked a turning point. The production was sleek, the set list powerful, but behind the scenes, Selena was unraveling. Midway through the tour, she canceled the remaining dates, citing anxiety, panic attacks, and depression linked to her lupus. It was a decision that shocked the industry but saved the artist. That choice, to step back rather than burn out, became a blueprint for a new kind of pop stardom. In an industry that chews through young women, Selena showed that saying no could be an act of strength. Her fans, instead of leaving, stayed. They understood. They respected the honesty. Silver screen and streaming screens. Selena's career is not limited to music. She has built a parallel path in acting that continually reinvents her. After Wizards of Waverly Place, she dipped into films. Romantic comedies like Monte Carlo, voice roles in family hits like Hotel Transylvania, and indie experiments like Spring Breakers, where she shocked audiences with a darker, edgier role. That film was a line in the sand. Selena was not afraid to disrupt her own image. Years later, she would find herself in another unexpected success. Only Murders in the Building, 2021-2. Acting alongside legends Steve Martin and Martin Short, Selena held her own as Mabel Mora, the sharp, mysterious, modern foil to her comedic co-stars. The show became a critical and commercial hit, drawing younger viewers to Hulu and proving once again that Selena's talent was not confined to music. Television and film gave her new ways to connect, but more importantly, they gave her room to explore sides of herself music couldn't reach. The timing, the humor, the gravitas. She grew as an actress in ways that mirrored her growth as a person. Collaborations and global reach. Part of Selena's power lies in her collaborations. She has worked with DJs like Kygo, It Ain't Me, with EDM giants like Marshmello, Wolves, and with Latin stars like Ozuna and Cardi B, Taki Taki. Each collaboration expanded her audience, threading her voice into different genres, different languages, different rhythms. Her feature on Calm Down with Rima in 2022 introduced her to Afrobeats audiences and turned the track into a global smash. The remix didn't just climb charts, it crossed cultures. Selena's voice blended seamlessly, showing her ability to adapt and respect the style she stepped into. Through collaborations, she has demonstrated humility. She doesn't overpower, she integrates. That ability to adapt without losing herself is rare, and it's why her relevance continues across decades. Awards and recognition. Selena's shelves carry awards from every major platform: American Music Awards, Billboard Music Awards, MTV VMAs. But beyond the trophies, what stands out is how she receives them. Often humble, often turning the spotlight back on fans, she treats awards not as crowns but as confirmations that her vulnerability, her openness, her honesty matters. She has also been honored for her activism, named a UNICEF ambassador at just 17, recognized for her mental health advocacy, and celebrated for the Rare Impact Fund. These recognitions affirm a truth her fans already know. Selena's influence is not just artistic, it is humanitarian. My Mind and Me. In 2022, Selena released My Mind and Me, a documentary that peeled back the curtain more than ever before. Cameras followed her through breakdowns, through quiet moments of despair, through unglamorous realities. It was raw, it was painful, it was brave. Viewers saw not just the star, but the human, the panic attacks, the tears, the exhaustion. But they also saw resilience. They saw a woman determined to live truthfully, even when that truth was messy. For many, the documentary became a mirror. Fans wrote letters saying they felt less alone. They felt understood. They felt seen. That is the power of authenticity. It doesn't just free the speaker, it frees the listener. Today and tomorrow. Today, Selena Gomez stands as more than an entertainer. She is an entrepreneur, an activist, an actress, a singer, and above all, a survivor. She has turned scars into stories, stories into songs, songs into healing. Her legacy is still in motion. She continues to build Rare Beauty into a billion-dollar brand. She continues to act in acclaimed series. She continues to make music that finds hearts across generations. And she continues to be a voice for those who feel voiceless. What makes Selena unique is not that she has suffered. Many have. What makes her unique is how she has shared that suffering, not for sympathy, but for solidarity. She has made vulnerability a public good. She has made honesty fashionable. She has made survival inspirational. The lesson for us. If you are listening as an English learner, remember this. Stories like Selena's do more than inspire. They teach. Every sentence you hear trains your ear in natural American rhythm. Every phrase you repeat improves your fluency. Every pause, every emphasis shows you how native speakers give meaning to words. Selena's story is not just entertainment, it's an education. By listening closely, by repeating, by practicing, you are not only learning about her, you are becoming more fluent, more confident, more expressive in English. And in that way, her story becomes part of yours.